Welcome back, my friends, to TFT Hyperroll with Autarch, and I apologize in advance to those of you who absolutely hate this build. But if I didn't do it, I would be ignoring a pretty important build that exists, and I've mentioned it in other videos, but I haven't really done a full breakdown of it and why it works, how to get into it, etc. So this will be that, and again, I'm sorry, I know we've gone over this in lives that people hate this build, but if you don't know Emo Spellweaver Annie, you're kind of missing out. So nothing really happened in the opening NPC round, so let's jump straight to the augments. Generally, frequent flyer is a take because it's a 50% reduction, but I check the others anyway. I see an Emo Annie, go ahead and take it. Once you get her, you're looking for superfans, which are going to be Lilia, Cannon, and ultimately Nico, but you may have to use Gnar in between because Nico's a 3 cost and may show up a little bit later, but you're going to need them for Annie to get the Jeweled Gauntlet, which is her superfan item. And the first round is likely a throwaway because you're not going to be able to get superfan and Annie in the same board, so you're not going to have the items you need. And even once you get superfan rolling, don't expect to automatically start winning. This is much more of a late game comp. Once you are able to get all of the pieces in place, that's when this becomes very, very strong. But it's a little weak early, so expect to lose in the first few rounds. Item-wise, if you happen to see a spatula, get it. Because now you can make an Emo emblem with a tier, and that will allow you to go to 6 Emo, which gets ridiculously powerful towards the end, as you'll see here. And in reality, there are a lot of things you're counting on to go right for it to all work out. You're going to need a 3-star Annie, you're going to need the right items for Annie, and then you're going to need all the other pieces to fall in place. But strangely, those other pieces are much easier to get. It's the 3-star Annie that's a little tricky. It is time for the second set of augments, and it's a little bit of a tough choice. Not out of these I'm going to re-roll them all, but we get Emotional Connection, which comes with an Annie and a Vex, or Heroic Grab Bag. Since we're low towards Annie, I was considering the Grab Bag, but we do have Frequent Flyer. So I'm hoping that's going to help us get to the 3-star Annie without needing to use duplicators or an augment specifically for it. Also, normally I would switch out my 3 superfans, but Gnar's doing such a great job, we're gonna leave him in for now. What we are ultimately waiting for here is the appearance of the Sad Mummy, because then we can take the item off of Gnar, put it onto Amumu, and we'll get our 4 Emo, which will be a pretty nice buff, allowing everyone to cast more often. Once Amumu is located, we move the Gargoyle Stoneplate over to him, and now we have the 4 Emo, and notice how often they are casting. It's going to get a lot worse when we get up to 6, but you will see that they are able to take on teams that otherwise you would think they would get decimated by, but Bard is told to sit down. It is time for our Radiant Blessing, and pretty easy choice, Baron's Gift, because Nashter's Tooth is one of the best Annie items, so if we can get the upgraded version on her, that's even better. Echo is part of this build for 2 reasons. Number 1, he ticks Sentinel along with Lilia. Number 2, he is also a Spellweaver. And we're up to our 3rd set of augments, and I'm going to go ahead and roll one and then jump on it, and it's because we are missing a lot of components that we're going to need. I'm holding that tier for the spatula, so I don't currently have an additional mana producing item for Annie, and even with 6 Emo, I like to have that extra boost for her so she can just destroy things. And even though I had Frequent Flyer, it was taking a long time to find the Annie I needed. Finally, in 8-1, it gives me that Annie. And now we're going to play a little game of I Really Hope. We're going to start by putting a couple of items onto Amumu so that he's all set in the front line. Then we can get the tier here, but we need this to be a sword or a tier, and it is, so we can go ahead and make the Spear of Sojin on Annie. Then we can bring in Karthus, turn him into an Emo, and we now have 6 Emo, and Karthus will also be an executioner, thanks to the fact that Vex is an executioner. Now, as you will quickly see, Emo Karthus is, well, kind of fundamentally evil, because he's just going to keep casting over and over. Yeah, the Emo augment is helping a lot with that, but that player gets knocked out with it. Item choice. Even though executioners have crit as part of their kit, adding a jeweled gauntlet is not going to hurt, because it's going to increase the chances, and the game is now throwing Karthus at us. And as you can see, this game just gets a little bit unreasonable at this point, with Karthus able to cast over and over, with Annie critting from the backline. Yeah, it's just going to be hard to get through to us. Now, I did this a little different because I had 6 Emo, but normally I would have brought in Ari and Echo first to tick Spellweaver and KDA. But I couldn't resist a 6 Emo Karthus. We're going to go ahead and grab a blue buff for Vex, so she's casting more often. Remember, she's an executioner, so she automatically can crit. And you'll see why Annie made my top 5 for 1-cost champs that can carry until the end. Here we have an Emo Karthus with a jeweled gauntlet, but at the end of the round, our Annie is still out-damaging him. And as you can see, there are multiple Annie teams left in this match. They went for a more Spellweaver-based team, while ours, well, because of the augment, is based entirely around Emo. But both of us end up making it into the top 4. And with our final champion, we can now place on Echo, which will give us the Sentinel and Spellweaver bonus that we didn't have until now. Final 2 item choices, and at this point, I am just looking for frontline. Our backline, well, they are all set. So as much as we can get on Poppy, the better. And I couldn't ask for better than Crown Guard and Warmogs at this point. And you may or may not have noticed what's going on the bench, but we are 1 Karthus away, well, now 0 Karthuses away from a gold 3-star Karthus that's going to be Emo Executioner. So, yeah, his casting is going to get a heck of a lot worse before this is over, and I suspect that's going to be soon. And we join for the moment that we get the gold 3-star Karthus and check in on the last player in the 1v1. It is the Punk Guardian team that also has Executioner, but not quite like this. If you decide to do this build, obviously this is the best possible outcome, where you get an Emo emblem and you can get a Karthus involved with Emo, because he's going to just wreck an opposing team. Generally, you go just in with Spellweaver and the Sentinel, and that will be enough. You'll use Poppy instead of a Mumu as your final Emo, and then get yourself to 5 Spellweaver. But this is the extreme example for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Give Emo Annie a try if you don't hate it too much, and as always, have an absolutely awesome day.